Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Veeam's Friday Tech Bites. My name is Melissa Palmer, and I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, Kirsten Stoner. Kirsten, how are you today?
Hi everyone, I'm doing great. It's a sunny day here in Columbus, Ohio. It's Friday, so you can't really ask for much more than that, right?
Absolutely. And before we get started talking about what we're going to get into from a technical perspective today, I want everybody to take a moment and drop where you're from in the comments on whatever platform you're watching on. We're going to come back to this map a couple times during the course of the show and give everybody some shout outs. I see someone from Australia already, a couple of states in the United States. And we're looking forward to a really great show today because we're talking about something that me and Kirsten absolutely love to talk about, and that is the 3-2-1 rule. Now, if you know anything about data protection, you're probably familiar with the 3-2-1 rule. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Veeam's interpretation and how you can apply that your way to fit your needs. So let's get started. If we can go to the 3-2-1 slide, we're going to explain this. And if you notice, we add a couple of extra special things here at Veeam. Kirsten, can you explain this whole 3-2-1 for our viewers?
Yeah, so the 3-2-1 rule has been around now for a while. When I first started at Veeam centuries ago, I'm just kidding. That was one of the first things I learned was the 3-2-1 rule. You have to have 3 copies of your data, 2 on different media, 1 which is off-site. And then as you know, new technologies have developed, new threats are occurring on our data center and more sophisticated threats, Veeam's added these extra 2 steps for extra protection. And what are those steps, Melissa?
Absolutely. So now we're going to add on to 3-2-1, add another 1, add another 0. So 1 copy, which is offline air gapped or immutable. We love talking about immutable backups at Veeam. And we want to have 0 efforts after automated backup testing and recoverability verification. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's not about backup. It is about recovery. So if you can't actually recover your data, does it even matter if you backed it up in the first place, Kirsten?
No, it doesn't.
So when we talk about the longer form rule, the 3-2-1-1-0 rule, we have to give Rick Vanover some credit. He's on vacation today. Rick, we hope you're having a wonderful time off, and that's why we're in charge today. But he calls it the zip code of availability, 3-2-1-1-0. And I personally like to call it the ransomware recovery formula, because we're talking about 1 copy being offline, immutable, or air gapped, and testing that recovery to make sure that you're ready. So everybody watching today, I have a question for you. What would you apply the 3-2-1 rule to in your life? I'll start. So leave everything in the comments. We want to know what you want to apply this 3-2-1 rule, right? 3 copies of your data, 2 different media, 1 offsite copy. For me, it is coffee. I have a bunch of different coffee machines. I have 3 different ones. I have some that use different types of media. So some use ground, some use K-cups, some use Nespresso like the little Nespresso capsules. Like I have everything covered. And then for one being off site, the way I interpret that is I have an AeroPress, which I don't need any power for. I just need hot water and coffee grinds, and I have a hand crank grinder. So no matter what happens, my coffee is covered by the 3-2-1 rule. So Kirsten, what's your personal interpretation of the 3-2-1 rule?
Well, I was thinking about this and I was thinking, I was thinking about towels because right now I currently have to do laundry so bad in my apartment. And so it's always a general rule of thumb to have, 3 full sets of towels. And honestly, if you do look it up on the internet, it says 2 full sets per 1 person per household. So like I'm the 1 person in my household, so I have 2 full sets, but I have that extra set just in case I don't want to have to do laundry. And I don't have the time to do laundry, So like that's my 3-2-1 rule. So that's how I'm relating it to my
Absolutely. And
life.
everybody who's watching, don't forget, we want to see what you want to apply the 3-2-1 rule in the comments, and we'll read them out during the course of the show. But since we're adding the 1-0 Veeaminess today, we want to dive a little deeper into offline, immutable, and air gapped. So we have kind of this whole recipe at Veeam, how you can put together the perfect solution for yourself based on your requirements. So if we go to the slide on offline, immutable, and air-gapped, I'm going to do what Rick always does to me when we present this slide. So Kirsten, what is your favorite way to protect your data on this slide?
So I would have to say my favorite way is replicated virtual machines, just because you're going to have a copy of your machine in a ready to start state. It's normally going to be powered off and sometimes on a different domain. So if something were to happen to your production machine, you have that extra copy available to you that's up to date, that all you really need to do is power on. So really giving you like the best recovery time objectives for your business.
Yeah, you nailed that, Kirsten. It's all about the RTOs. And if we're talking about super low RTO, replicas are the way to go. I spend a lot of time talking about ransomware because ransomware is a disaster after all. So I'm going to have to say my toss up is the hardened Linux repository, which is something that came out in Veeam version 11, right? You could turn your commodity Linux server into a hardened repository, which means we have immutability for Veeam backups. And I'll throw immutable backups in that too, because there's so many different ways to have an immutable copy of your data. And remember, folks, immutability means that you can't actually change or delete your data. So if you get ransomware and they try to go after your backups, they won't be able to do anything. And there's a lot of other ways too. Tape is a classic, especially in today's era. It's making a big comeback. I know Dave Russell loves to talk about his love of tape on the Monday show. We're talking primary storage snapshots. Those are really awesome, especially if you're replicating them to a different site. They're probably one of the things I like to do. And of course, Veeam Cloud Connect backups with insider protection, right? Let's just get that off site. Let's get it to our trusted Cloud Connect partner and leverage their resources sometimes if we need to recovery. And another good one is rotating hard drives, rotating media if you really want to get into it and make sure that everything is protected. But the whole point of Veeam is that you can kind of piece together your perfect solution based on all of these different things. And again, we really want to have an ultra resilient copy of that data to protect us against things like ransomware, insider threats, and just, the bad things that can happen to us. And when we talk about immutability, that's another thing I also want to dive deeper into, because there's immutability all throughout the life cycle of our data. So I'm going to start on the performance tier, and I'm going to go on my little soliloquy of super fast things, right? So I love the hardened Linux repository so much in version 11 because I can build the biggest, baddest server, make it super fast, throw Linux on it. No really extra licensing costs, no magic, no tax for using immutability, right? And I can get those lightning fast restores from an immutable media in the performance tier. So if I'm keeping, 7 to 14 days worth of data and something nasty happens in my environment and I'm able to say, okay, it came in 3 days ago, I can just start my restores lightning fast. And I've got immutability in my performance tier, but I can kind of go on through the life cycle of my data and keep that immutability. So Kirsten, can you tell us a little bit more of how you kind of move your data through that life cycle with the capacity and archive tier on the scale out backup repository?
Yeah, of course. So the capacity tier and the archive tier are just another type of tier within the scale-out backup repository. So when you think about the capacity tier, think about transferring data here for long-term storage. This could be if you're running out of storage space. Maybe you need to store data elsewhere, or maybe you just need some data on different sites. And using that object lock functionality and technology provided by Amazon and some S3 compatible providers is really going to allow you to prohibit that data from being deleted until that immutability expiration date occurs. And then you can take it one step further with that archive tier. So thinking about, maybe you need to store data for a longer period of time, or maybe you have a lot of data that's rarely accessed. Maybe you need to save some costs on storage. And within that archive tier, you can then once again use that object lock functionality. So really protecting your data for longer periods of times, whether you're storing it in the performance tier, the capacity tier, or the archive tier, you really have immutability from start to finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I want to point out is these Veeam ready icons on this graphic as well for the scale out backup repository. The scale out backup repository is super simple to make. It's a matter of connecting up all your repositories into Veeam and then just logically putting them together. And then based on the policies you're set, your data will automatically progress through this tier as you deem fit for your business. And of course, we have the Veeam Ready program where we're working with all of these different industry partners, right? All these different technology vendors, storage vendors. We've got object with immutability, object storage, repository, which means that there's a solution for you no matter what your requirements are. Chances are, whatever you're using today for your storage vendor or whatever, they're probably in one of our Veeam Alliance programs, which means you can continue using what you're used to, right? Because we're a software-based solution. Take it a step further. If you're looking for some new things to add, right? You want to get started with immutability. Maybe you want to look at the object with immutability certified partners, right? There you go. We kind of have everything you need to help have your Veeam team put together that solution for you that will keep you protected through the life cycle of your data. But now we've had so much great interaction today that I want to head back to the map and give a couple of shout outs for everybody that's joined today. So in North America, we've got Canada, Ohio, Texas, Jamaica, Mexico. We've got New Jersey in there. We've got Georgia in there. We've got Ohio, of course. And if we go into Europe, we've got Slovenia, Romania, France, Serbia, Turkey, Italy. And if we move on to Africa, we've got Kenya, UAE, Iran, and then finally rounding it out with India, Singapore, and Thailand. So everybody be sure to drop where you're from in the graphics. And hey, Australia, I think you were the first ones online today. Drop where you're from in the comments and we'll come back and look at the map again. But you know what's really funny is we've gotten a lot of great comments about the 3-2-1 rule, and the overwhelming response seems to be money and my bank account, right? So I don't know if we want to make our bank accounts bigger or protect them, but I would not mind 3 copies of a bank account. I know that for sure. Everybody wants more money. Fishing poles, that's important too, especially if you're like out on a boat or something and you bring one fishing pole and it breaks. You're going to have a really bad fishing trip, aren't you, Kirsten? Like, that's just not going to be any fun. So you're always going to bring extra fishing poles. That's a good one. We've got drinks. Okay, so 3 alcoholic drinks, 2 containers, glass and can, 1 with ice. That's a pretty good interpretation of the 3-2-1 rule. And then we have a viewer from Romania that has 3 different types of comms. They've got fiber, which I just got fiber internet. It's really nice. A DSL backup and satellite if everything goes bad with 2 different UPSs. So this person is totally covered. And that's important, right? If you really want to make sure that you're getting your internet access and being able to watch these live streams or do these live streams, that's important. And then finally, tacos. I ate 3 tacos. I'll eat at least 2 more tacos. Okay, 1 more taco. I think everybody loves tacos. So if you have any more creative ways that you would implement the 3-2-1 rule in your life, be sure to let us know. But otherwise, let's continue on with talking about kind of the 3-2-1 rule your way and how you can make it your own with Veeam. So there's a thing about Veeam solutions, right? And we always have your back, right? Veeam is simple, flexible, reliable, and powerful. Veeam software, and I think, Kirsten, are we going to do, I don't want to spoil what we're doing next week, but there might be some demos involved. And you're going to see how simple it is to use some Veeam solutions, how flexible they can be when it comes to things like monitoring, maybe, and reliable, right? There's so many different ways to design a solution with Veeam that you know when something happens and you need to restore that everything's going to be available. You'll be back online quickly and you'll be powerful. So really, there's a solution out there to fit your needs. Kirsten, what is your favorite when it comes to the things we kind of live by here at Veeam?
I would say the simplicity of the overall solution. I feel sometimes like, we hear about a feature, a new functionality of the product, and we might be like, oh no, like how do we even get started? But it's seriously like all you need to do is get your hands dirty, you can't learn to swim without jumping into the pool and swimming. So like, and then once you get it set up, you're like, that actually was super simple to do. And now I'm using continuous data protection, or now I'm protecting Microsoft Teams. So
Kirsten
it's
and I have
really,
some stories about how simple it is to use simple continuous data protection. I called her one day after V11 came in. I'm like, Kirsten, let's go set up CDP and let's not read the manual first. And we still had it up and running in, I think, about 20 minutes. I started building a VM at the beginning of us doing all our stuff for CDP. And by the time we had CDP ready to protect a VM, my VM wasn't even finished installing yet. So Veeam is really simple. So let's hit back to immutability real quick, because this is something that's really important. And this is also something that we've shamelessly stolen from Rick Vanover in one of his favorite talk tracks, is double and triple play immutability, right? So let me give you a couple examples of how, when we're talking about those 3 copies of your data, that you can really put immutability in at all different levels, like you saw in the scale up backup repository slide. So double play immutability, this is one of my favorites, and I have a lot of customers actually doing this today. Linux immutable backups, which is a new feature in version 11, and S3 immutable backups. That is a really easy way to have 2 immutable copies. And then, of course, if you want to kind of throw out one more version, we have the archived here in the sober, and then we can really, work with worm tapes out to the library. So again, getting a immutable copy of data is not that difficult, but here's one kind of spoiler I want to give, that immutable is immutable, which means you can't change or modify it or delete it, right? So when you're sizing for immutability and you're going to say, okay, I want immutable backups for 30 days, you have to make sure that you have enough storage for that 30 days of immutable backups, because you can't get rid of them, right? Kind of a thing how it works. And speaking of a spoiler alert and immutability, next week, we're going to be talking about something really interesting. So Kirsten, tell us about what we're looking at right now.
yeah, so when it comes to immutability, Veeam 1 has you covered. It's going to be able to provide that visibility and alert you on any immutability state and changes. So recently we, released a new version of 11A. And with this version came a lot of new enhancements and new alarms. And 2 of the new alarms was just the ability to track immutability. So you have immutability state, just making sure that the configured immutability setting is turned on or is turned off. It will let you know. And then also immutability change tracking, just making sure that your immutability isn't being changed or altered, especially if it's within policy that you need to keep it for a certain amount of period of time. So adding that extra visibility within your immutability settings and repositories is always a good idea to have, because you always need to be aware of what's going on.
Exactly. Now we can kind of monitor it a little closer and report on it and kind of let you know exactly, hey, here's what's going on, something's changed, so you can kind of get ahead of things. But I'm going to put you on the spot again, Kirsten, because we're going to switch gears a little bit and start talking about recovery. So do you remember how many different ways there are to recover with Veeam, Kirsten?
I would say there's like 91 recovery
91. Is
scenarios.
Kirsten right? Kirsten is exactly right. There's 91 different ways to recover with Veeam when we put in all of our different options and all of our different ways to recover. And Kirsten, I'm going to make you pick your favorite. So I'm going to put you on the spot and say, what is your favorite way to recover with Veeam?
So there's so many different ways to recover, obviously 91, so hard to choose. But when I was actually looking at this diagram earlier today, I had one idea in mind, but then I remembered another idea, and that was the quick rollback recovery feature. And this is basically just an incremental data restore. So instead of having to restore the whole virtual machine, when you perform a quick rollback, only the data blocks that are necessary to revert that virtual machine to a point in time are restored. So this is good for restores on the guest OS level. Think about maybe like an accidental deletion or an application error. It's a really easy way to recover, and it's pretty fast as well. So I would say that's my favorite restore
That
option.
is a really good one. And if I have to pick my favorite, This is actually going to be hard because I'm all about the recovery, but I'm going to have to go with Secure Restore. So if you're not familiar with Secure Restore from Veeam, it is a way that we can actually scan your backups for malware or ransomware, a type of malware, as we're recovering them. So we can start recovering, start scanning, and if we find something, we've got a couple different options. So one, we don't find anything, just restore the server, we're good. Two, we find something bad, you can actually continue to restore without the network connected, which is good because a lot of times people will just restore to an isolated network anyway. Or three, just throw it away and we're going to start over and go back to an earlier restore point. So that's something that a lot of our customers think are really handy. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention like all instant VM recovery technologies on this slide, right? So the ability to get recovering super fast and be able to say, hey, we're up and running almost instantly off our repository, which is one of those reasons that having that fast performance tier is so important. So we've got instant VM recovery, Hyper-V, VMware, SQL, databases, the whole 9 yards. So let's head back over to the map real quick and see who's joined us. We have a bunch of other wonderful people here. We have Florida, Kansas, Iowa, and Massachusetts in the United States. And we have Colombia in South America. We've got Germany in the in Europe. I don't know why I would just say Germany, United States. I apologize. Germany and Europe. We've got South Africa chiming in. Welcome, South Africa. And we also have Pakistan joining us. So again, thank you all so much for joining us today. And if you have any other creative uses of the 3-2-1 rule, don't forget to let us know in the comments. Oh, we got one more. Phone charging. Okay, I am guilty of having a phone or another device not have power and be in trouble. So 3 ways to charge 2 devices at once. One off-grid battery. Yeah, I am notorious for having battery packs scattered all over my house to make sure that I can always plug someone in and plug in the iPad or the phone or whatever you need to. So let's keep talking about recovery and talk about how not all recoveries are created equal. So this is going to be a fun little game that we're going to play. And we're going to talk about how we might recover in different scenarios, right? So let's start with data deletion versus ransomware. Oh no, Kirsten, I've deleted all my important data, or I've deleted that VM. What do I do? Chances are you're just going to hop right back over into BNR and you're going to start just restoring those files or restoring that VM and everything's good. Now, ransomware is a special one, and we talk about that a lot at Veeam. But if it turns into, oh no, I just logged in and I'm ransomware, you don't actually just head over to the Veeam console and start restoring, right? That becomes a much bigger thing because it becomes part of the IT security incident response. Depending on what kind of ransomware it is and what's going on, and if you're regulated and if law enforcement is involved, how you recover might be different based on the scenario. So for example, if law enforcement involved it comes in and says, okay, we need to quarantine your whole environment because we need to do some forensics before we can even let you recover, you can't recover in place, which means you might have to be recovering to a cloud or a different environment or something like that. And again, it comes down to, do we know where the ransomware came in? Okay, we're just going to go back to before that restore point and start recovering. Or do we need to use something like Secure Restore to help us find it as we're recovering? So data deletion versus ransomware, not all recoveries are created equal. Just like a single VM and a full site. Again, a single VM, hop on over my console, I hit that restore button, I'm good to go. A full site, that's really an orchestrated recovery, right? Because my applications might need to come up in a particular order. I might need to worry more about resource utilization and how many restores can I actually do at a time with some vSphere limitations. So that's really different as well. And then mission critical versus low priority recoveries, right? Mission critical recoveries, hopefully I'm using some form of replication or orchestrated recovery, so that's super simple, versus the things that, well, it would be nice to have my wiki with all the cat pictures running in the event of a disaster, but I don't have it right now. That might be just be something that we do a full restore on later, and we don't really worry about things like instant VM recovery or speeds and fees or anything like that. Like Kirsten, What would you say your favorite type of recovery on this list is and why?
It's hard because I feel as if when it comes to recovery, the reason you have to recover is kind of like because you lost your data or you need to, something's down. So it's like honestly like a nerve-wracking experience, like, oh, now I have to recover. And you better have tested your backups, make sure you can recover.
Absolutely.
But I would say mission critical, just because we rely on our applications like every day. It runs businesses. It fuels sales processes, anything the business needs. So making sure that you can recover your mission critical applications in a timely manner to get back up and running is very important.
Yes, thank you, Veeam CDP is all I have to say. So let's recap what we talked about today and some key takeaways. Protect your data today to recover tomorrow. So we've talked a lot about the 3-2-1 rule, immutability, all that good stuff, and different ways you can recover. But the key takeaway is you need to be having those immutable backups, have 3 copies of your data, right? 2 different media types, one offsite, one air-gapped immutable, 0 errors after recovery, so that tomorrow, if disaster or ransomware strikes, you can recover. At Veeam, we offer pretty much a 30-day free trial of just about any product. So go get that 30-day free trial of backup and replication. Try it for yourself. And then, of course, don't forget our ransomware toolkit, which you can find at the URL here to kind of give you some ideas on how you can use all these concepts to protect you against ransomware. Now, next Friday, Kirsten and I are going to be back here again talking about that one thing we love to talk about so much. We're going to be doing a deep dive on Veeam 1. So we'll definitely have some demos in there for you and talk about some fun things and maybe have some more fun questions. Next Monday, or this coming Monday, Veeam is actually off on Monday, so we won't be here. However, the following Monday, we'll have Jason and Dave here on the 15th talking about ways you can invest wisely with your fourth quarter budget, right? So all those different things that you can spend money on at the end of the year, again, to protect your data today so you're ready to recover tomorrow. Kirsten, what do you think of the 3-2-1 rule?
I think that what the audience has told us, there's a lot of different ways that you can apply the 3-2-1 rule in real life. Well, all the time, basically, not in real life. But I would have to say, like the coffee thing, I agree with you, Melissa. Like I have to have my coffee, and that's probably my favorite outside data.
Exactly. Kirsten and I
Three,
like
two,
our
one.
coffee.
Yeah.
So use a 3-2-1 to protect your data and the important things in your life, like your fishing poles, your coffee, your bank accounts, and your phone chargers. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.